So I've been teaching in the dating industry since 2005. And one of the things that I've discovered in all these years is that there are some lies that women tell themselves about men and relationships and dating that really are incredibly detrimental to their ability to get into the relationship they want. It prevents them from having happy relationships. It can eat away at their well-being and their happiness and their feelings of self-worth and self-esteem. And so today I'm going to be talking about 6 different lies that women tell themselves about men and relationships. And you're going to want to hear about these, and you want to make sure that you're not falling for any of these lies so that you can end up getting into the relationship you want. So my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to Commitment Connection. If you really like my work, make sure that you end up joining our community. You can go to theforeverwomanformula.com, pick up my program there for free, and join our community. It's really great. If you're interested in being loved and seen and cherished by a great man in a great relationship, it's a really great community. I suggest you join. So, what are these lies that women are telling themselves about men in relationships? The first lie is, I'm going to be the one who changes his mind, right? And so he doesn't want a relationship, he doesn't want marriage, he doesn't want kids. And here's my suggestion. When a man tells you his values, believe him. When a man tells you who he is, believe him. When a man tells you what he wants, believe him. It's too often when I meet women who are trying to kind of prod, and they're like it's like they're chiseling away at a rock, and they're just like, one of these days I'm gonna get through, and it's like, even if you do, it'll end up, there'll be a whole bunch of resentment, it'll be a painful relationship. If he tells you that he doesn't want these things, believe him. And if it's a deal breaker for you, my suggestion is that you find another guy. If you can't accept him for who he is and what he values right now, you have to change your circumstances. You have to change what kind of guy you're in a relationship with. Otherwise, you're going to experience a lot of pain. You either have to change your expectations around what you want, or you have to change who it is that you want it with. Stop trying to fix and change men. It never ends well. So the second one is, if I can be the perfect woman for him, then he'll step up and want the relationship that I want. And so he seems like he's perfect, except for one thing. He doesn't want the relationship you want. He gives you excuses, but no matter how you fix or flip or change yourself into the perfect woman, you're never quite perfect enough. There's always more that you have to prove. And so here's the truth. The truth is that you're not right for each other. and he's only with you until he finds the right woman. And you being with him prevents you from finding the right guy. So you're stuck on him, and you're unable to find the right guy because you're stuck on him, because he doesn't want the same type of relationship that you want. Maybe he wants a casual relationship. Maybe he wants something else. But finally, you give up and break up, and then 3 months later, he ends up getting engaged and married to somebody else. Why? Because you were never right to begin with. You're trying to open a door that's closed for you. You're putting a question mark where he put a period. Don't do that. Doesn't end well. Doesn't end well. Next one is, hooking up with him will get me closer to his heart. So a lot of women think that physical intimacy with a guy will get to his heart. And to some extent, that's actually true. You can kind of build a deeper connection with a guy by getting to his heart. or by sleeping with him. But if you focus just on the physical connection with him, the focus of your relationship will end up being physical. And he might in the moment have all those amazing feelings while you guys are intimate with each other, but eventually you guys won't be intimate with each other, and he will go back to normal, and he'll be like, hey, man, I don't even know what I was thinking, right? Because emotions, the way emotions work is that people express things in the moment of how they're feeling right then in the moment, right? And you can't believe that experience that he's having or that you're having is something that is going to continue to go on in the future. So you have to make sure that you're not just connecting through physical intimacy, because that's not the way to a man's heart. The real way to a man's heart is by connecting through his emotions, right? If you go to a restaurant and you order a bean burrito, don't expect a steak. I'm not sure if that's a good... I wrote that down earlier and it made a lot of sense. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. But you need to connect with his heart through emotions. So your emotions, connecting with your emotions, and then connecting to him with your emotions, that's one of the best ways to do it. His emotions, right? I talked about this in some of my other videos and some of my programs where you ask him questions which elicit different types of emotions. That's another great way to do it. Or let physical intimacy be the cherry on the top, not the main focus of the relationship, not the main focus of the connection, right? You want the connection to be something deeper, that's more satisfying and more satisfying more often. That way he's not just trying to connect with you physically, because that's where all the emotion sparks up. You want him to be connecting with you in times when it's not physical. That way he doesn't slot you in his mind as this casual friend with benefits type of situation. So, and the next one is, he says we're casual, but I really think he sees me as something more. We get women like this all the time. Just so you know, we do not recommend getting into casual friend with benefits situations in our community. We don't recommend sleeping around. We don't recommend any of that kind of stuff, because what ends up happening is you get attached and he doesn't, and you start falling for him and you start going, oh, I want something more, and he's like, and it's rare. It does happen, don't get me wrong, it does happen sometimes, but it's rare for a relationship to come from a friend with benefits casual situationship. So my suggestion is you don't do that at all. So he says, I'm not his girlfriend, but he sees me as more, right? He treats you as more. You dream of it being as more. You wish that it was more, but it's not. It isn't more. He said you're just casual, just having fun. It's not a real relationship, but he acts like it's more. So why would a guy do this, right? Because he is getting his needs met. He's getting all your milk while he waits for what he really wants, because he doesn't believe that you are actually who he wants, and you're not going to convince him of it. And so he's getting all of his needs fulfilled, or maybe he doesn't even want anything for real, and so he's just buying his time and just enjoying what you guys have, but he doesn't want to move it any further. And so we've had women in our community who have been in casual friend with benefits situationships for 12 to 17 years, thinking it was going to one day go somewhere, but it didn't. And so you can either change your expectations around what you want with him, or you can get out of the situation. My suggestion is that you never get into the situation, and if you're in it, you get out of it immediately. But whatever you do, don't lie to yourself. You'll only end up being resentful towards him, possibly men altogether, and maybe even yourself as a result. So don't do that. The next one is, we're in a long-distance relationship together. And so here's the situation that I see very often, which is you haven't met him yet. You've been dating each other for months or possibly even years, yet you have no real plans of meeting together. Or even if you do have plans, for some reason, it always falls apart and it can never really end up happening. So you're totally emotionally invested in this man, but he starts pulling away, or he's got other things going on, or he's not acting the way that you want him to. Why? Because you don't even really know him. You don't know that much about him. You don't know who he is, and you don't know if he is who he says he is, and you don't even know if he's single. You've never met him. He could just be some guy sitting in a basement somewhere holding a rubber chicken, trying to figure out how to get money from you because he's a scammer. So my suggestion is that you stay away from these fantasy long-distance relationships, and instead you meet people that you actually end up meeting in real life and building a real connection with, because the magic is in the meetup. And so my suggestion is that you stay away from these texting, messaging relationships with people in faraway lands. I know it can be dreamy. I know it can be really amazing and feel great, but it's not really going anywhere. And so my suggestion is that you go and date other people and meet people close to you, and never send anybody money, because if anybody asks you for money ever, just don't give it to him, right? He doesn't really need it. He probably doesn't need it. And even if he does need it, he needs to figure it out for himself. He's an adult. He's a man. And so he should be figuring that stuff out for himself. And so if you get what we're talking about here, say I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, or you have questions about what I'm talking about, or you just have questions in general, go ahead and ask them in the chat. Next one, and the last one, is if I do this for him, I can convince him to love me. And so you have this guy, and he's not quite loving you the way that you want him to love you. So you are buying him gifts. You're doing things for him. You're cooking and cleaning up his stuff and planning his events and taking him out and treating him like you would want to be treated, or treating him how you hear that all men want to be treated. You're just giving him everything. You're giving him everything of you. And he is completely taking it for granted. You are giving him wife privileges when he's only your boyfriend, or worse, he's just a casual friend with benefits. And nothing you ever do will be enough, because his door isn't open. Just like what we talked about before. Don't put a question mark where someone else puts a period. You need to go get my system if you're having this problem, right? Go build abundance for yourself. Come from a position of power. Build your orbit, your man orbit. I'm calling it the man orbit. So if you don't have my system, go check it out. It's at theforeverwomanformula.com. You can go get it for free if you decide you want to stay a part of our community. That's really awesome. We have a great, awesome community, and we're going to be building some really awesome, new, cool things and putting it into the community pretty soon. So get excited about all of that. So if you have any questions about anything, put them in the chat. That's what I'm going to go over next. I'm just going to go over what we just talked about real quick. The 6 lies that women tell themselves about men in relationships. 1 is, I'm going to be the one who changes his mind. No, you're not. 2, if I can be the perfect woman for him, then he'll step up and want the relationship that I want. But he won't. 3, hooking up with him will get me closer to his heart, but it doesn't. 4, he says we're casual, but I really think he sees me as something more. But he doesn't. 5, we're in a long-distance relationship together, but you're not. And 6, if I do this for him, I can convince him to love me. I know, some of it kind of sounds kind of silly or whatever, but these are really serious situations. And I've seen women get into, situations for years, and it's just painful. It's painful to hear some of this stuff from the women in our community. It's painful to see it. So just try to stay out of these lies, right? And if you catch yourself in one of these, just try to get yourself out. My suggestion is that you get in our community and you ask questions in our community, because that's where women will help pull you out of whatever situation you're in, because they'll be like, hey, there's a huge red flag there. Check it out. You need to make sure that you're getting out of it and you're not in it. So, all right, next I am going to see what kind of questions we have. Lots of Happy New Year's. Just in case you were wondering, we're doing this on New Year's Eve. So Irene says, hey, Matthew, thanks for all your advice. You are absolutely welcome. Thank you for being here and being a part of our community. I really appreciate it. We have the best women. We have the most attractive women. We have the coolest women. We have the most awesomest women in our community. The best women in the world are a part of our community. Michelle says, Matt, hello from Toronto. You are looking so handsome tonight. Well, thank you. Patricia says, what does he want then? What if he doesn't say what he wants? Well, you need, or doesn't know, you need to ask him what he wants. And if he doesn't know what he wants, then leave him with his not knowing what he wants and say, hey, when you figure it out, great, let me know. But I'm not going to sit around and wait for years or who knows how long, decades possibly, or however amount of time. You don't want to wait any amount of time for him to figure it out. You might look at him and think, man, this guy is amazing and awesome and whatever, but if he's not looking at you and thinking pretty quickly, because men's time, one thing you need to know, Patricia, is that a man's timeline is much different than a woman's timeline in a relationship. Men's timelines are pretty quick. They know pretty quick, and they move things pretty quickly once they know. And they might have a little bit of a lag time because they're like, well, I want to make sure that, this is the right woman for me. But but once he figures that out, after it's been a few months of him kind of dating you and getting to know you and seeing that you don't have any major red flags and that this is really awesome, he's figured out in his mind already, they've done studies on this, by the 6-month mark, he has figured out in his mind what kind of a relationship he wants to have with you. And so if it's been more than 6 months and he's telling you still that he doesn't know, he's lying to you. And if he's telling you he doesn't know anyway from the get-go, it's kind of like, okay, we can. If I were you, that would be like a red flag. You can go and you can hang out with him and you can date him and you can talk to him, but I wouldn't invest in him. I wouldn't do anything where I was, getting super emotionally connected or attached to him. For instance, I wouldn't be sleeping with him or anything like that, because if he doesn't know what it is that he wants at all, then you don't want to be sitting around hoping that he ends up deciding that he wants what it is that you want. Instead, you want to find a guy who already knows what it is that he wants, right? And who's searching for it and is looking for it. And if you find that kind of a guy, it's a totally different experience, because he'll hear different things from him, right? He'll be like, yeah, this is what I want, this is what we're going to do. And you're just like, wow, awesome, that's awesome, right? And you're used to dating these guys who don't know what they want, or you've been in this relationship with this guy who's always confused all the time, It's like, get out of those situations. That doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you to be in a situation with a guy like that. So Happy New Year, Happy New Year. So Michelle says, is it okay to compromise sex appeal for attraction to intelligence first? Would this work long term? I feel attracted to his intelligence more than physical attraction. Am I on the wrong path here? Well, possibly. So there is emotional connection, right? And there's an emotional connection that happens with men and with women, right? So if you are hanging out with a guy and you like his intelligence and you like all that, but you're not really physically attracted to him, I mean, you can kind of give it a little bit of time, but you don't want to give it too much time, because at some point you're going to realize, like, either, yes, I'm okay with it and I can still do it, or no, it's just I still feel icky just thinking about getting physically intimate with him, and there's no way that I can do it. And if you're in the first situation, it's something that can happen, and if you're in the second situation, then it's just never going to happen, right? So he has to do certain things to build his appeal to you, and if he's not doing those things and you're not feeling it, even if he is doing those things or not or whatever, then it's just not going to happen, and it's difficult to kind of, like, force it to happen, and eventually you're what usually happens, because I've seen women do this all the time, because they were like, well, I'm used to doing this other thing where I'm going out with these super hot guys, but they're just sleeping around and doing all these things, and they are attention seekers and all that kind of stuff, and so they decide to go the other direction, and sometimes they get into relationships that end up working because they're in a situation and there's enough appeal to them emotionally that it works out, and they feel good about it. But if it's not there for you, then you can't force it. You can't kind of make it happen, and eventually you're going to feel like it's not enough for you and that it's just kind of gross, and then there's going to be being physically intimate in a relationship is important, right, for long term, it working long term. And if it's not there, he's going to be frustrated, you're going to be frustrated, everybody's going to be frustrated, and it's going to be this point where you're like, okay, I've known this from the beginning, but I decided to try to give it a try, but it's just not working for me, and eventually you're going to end up breaking apart because of it. So you have to figure it out for yourself, right? And so just where is he on that scale of interest for you? So Wanda says, Matthew, you are spot on. Thanks for your insight and guidance. You are welcome. Patricia says, some guys push to have sex early on. Yeah, most guys do. And that's normal, and that's healthy, right? It's healthy that he wants that. He sees you, and he's physically attracted to you, and he wants to hook up with you, and that's totally normal, right? And it's also normal for you not to sleep around and decide, hey, I really like you and I'd love to do that at some point, but I need a deeper connection and I'm just not ready for that yet. And if he continues to kind of push your boundaries, decide whether he's doing that in a spot of disrespect and something where you need to pull away completely, or if he's doing that or what it is, right? Or if it's something that you can deal with and it's okay with you. So you just have to figure out for yourself what works for you. So Patricia says, I need to hear this at the moment. I'm glad. Irene says, has any woman used your techniques on you? Yes, I have had women. Yes, women have used my techniques on me before. It's pretty funny, and it's cool too, because one of the things that I'm not embarrassed about my techniques and what I teach. All of this stuff, not only does it work, but it's also really powerful, amazing stuff, right? It's not in my opinion, it's not game playing. It's just learning about human psychology and human behavior and human biology and using it in the best possible way. And yes, absolutely, my techniques have been used on me before. Patricia says, play the long game, not short-term pleasure. Exactly. So Cassia says, Matthew, you are helping a lot. Happy New Year. I'm glad I've trusted you and bought the access to your program. Thanks a lot. You're welcome. I'm glad that you enjoy it and it's working for you. So Maribeth says, what if we were girlfriend-boyfriend, broke up after 4 months, and been casual ever since? Can that go back to a relationship? He asked me if I want relationship last night. Don't know how he feels. So yeah, it can, and it's very difficult. It's a lot more difficult to do that, right? You don't want to get slotted into the casual category. And it's much easier for a guy to take you from kind of this boyfriend-girlfriend to this casual than it is for him to take you from this casual to the boyfriend-girlfriend. And so my suggestion is that you pull back, you use the scarcity principle like I talk about in the Forever Woman program, and you let him know that you find out what it is that he wants before you end up getting physically intimate with him again. That way you're not just wasting your time and you think that something's going somewhere and he doesn't think it's going somewhere. And so you need to have a real conversation with him about it, because you don't want to end up being in a casual situation. Like, I hear women sometimes and they're like, oh yeah, I'm good with the casual thing right now. And usually they're good with the casual thing because they're scared, right? They're scared of something, right? They're scared of being hurt. They're scared of the actual intimacy. They're scared of what will happen if they say that they want something more. They've been hurt in the past and they're scared to get hurt again. And so most women, in fact, most people that I know, don't really want the casual thing long term. They want something real. And my suggestion is that you stay out of casual situations, especially with an ex. One of the things I talk about in my ex-back program, it's called Restart Your Relationship. And one of the things I talk about in there is that you shouldn't, when you get back into a situation with your guy, you shouldn't just jump in bed with him immediately. You should build that emotional connection with him, and you should make sure that you're not jumping in bed with him and getting slotted as a casual friend with benefits type of thing, because a lot of guys will be happy just jumping back into that because there's less pressure. They don't feel, like they have to do as many things, and which is actually really interesting from one standpoint, right? Why do they feel like they have this freedom in the casual situation that they don't have in the relationship? And if that's the way that he felt, that's something that you also need to know, because if he's feeling restricted and he's feeling like his freedom's being taken away in the relationship, but in the casual thing, it's so much more free and it's so much better and it's, all these amazing things and it's great, then you need to figure out why in the relationship it felt like pressure to him, and see if it has something to do with the expectations that you're placing on the relationship and on him, and figuring out whether that's something that you can change and adjust or not. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is that people end up breaking up with each other because the expectations that they have on one another end up creating a lot of pain in the relationship, because the expectations don't match the reality of what the relationship is. And so, you're bringing yourself to the relationship, but you have these expectations and you're not meeting them, and so you guys are like fighting, and there's arguments, and there's like, just feelings of like, why is this happening? Why isn't this going where I want it to be? And so people start feeling pressure in it, and it ends up hurting the relationship. It ends up hurting the emotional connection that you have together when you are together, which will end up destroying the relationship from the inside out if that ends up happening. Just because it creates a lot of negative emotions in the relationship. I hope I answered your question, Maribeth. So Patricia says, well, the guy I've been talking to is keeping me at a distance. He lives 1 hour away. Haven't met him yet after a month of talking and sometimes FaceTime. Yep. And just remember, there's a lot of guys out there, and this is true for women as well. There's a lot of guys and a lot of women out there who just want a chat buddy online. And so, it's one of those things where sometimes the dream, so there's some people, and I learned this kind of in personal development, where I went, before I was teaching women, I did a lot of passion coaching, and I was helping people. I was a motivational speaker, and I went and spoke at a bunch of different places, and I would coach people on how to find their passions in life and figure out what they wanted to do. And one of the things that I found was that a lot of people have a dream of what it is that they want to do, but they don't go towards that dream because they're so addicted to having this dream that they don't even know what they would do if they got there, right? And so they don't make any moves towards doing it, and they don't put any effort towards doing it because they just want to keep that dream, that imagination that they're going after something. And so you don't want to end up being that dream that a guy has, that this idealization of who you are and all that kind of stuff. And it can be ruined when two people end up meeting, which is why it's important to have dates to meet and all that kind of stuff, so you're not just like hanging out doing nothing or whatever and never meeting each other. Jen says, Happy New Year, Matt. You look good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Polly says, you are so on point. Well, I appreciate that, Polly. Michelle says, a Happy New Year to you. May all your wishes come true in 2020. That is what I'm talking about. I want all my wishes to come true too. So thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate that. Handsome Matt. Always stay true to us, women around the world. We crave for and welcome your advice. You are spot on. Well, thank you so much. Irene says, system is amazing. Glad you think it's amazing. Patricia says, he said he's afraid of rejection, doesn't believe I like him. That's why he's not sure about a meetup. Well, that just shows you that he's incredibly insecure and has a lot of issues that you're going to end up running into when you do meet up. And my suggestion is that you don't put a lot of weight on him ever meeting you. And if you do, for him to have all kinds of insecurities and feeling like he's not good enough and all kinds of stuff like that, which is going to end up coming up, if it's already coming up and he's already talking about it, you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to come up even more. So Jen says, exactly, you talking about my past. Yeah. Hopefully it stays in the past. Hopefully it stays in the past, Jen. So Tina says, can all this apply to married people? I get that he has left me. Is this starting dating your man all over again? Well, you do need to start dating your man all over again, right? Because one of the things that I talk about in my Restart Your Relationship program is that men don't want to get into the same relationship that they left, right? If he left you for a reason. And if he wants to get back, it's because he misses some things that you guys had together. But he's not missing what he left. He's missing some of the needs that he was getting fulfilled before he left. And so you don't want to get back into the same relationship. You need to fix what was going on that created all the resentment and the desire for him to leave, and come from a new space where he feels like he's getting into a new, fresh start of a relationship that's completely different than the one that he had before, but still fulfills all the needs that he was getting fulfilled before things got worse and worse and worse, and eventually it got so painful that he ended up leaving. So Ashley says, okay, Matt, I've been single for close to 2 years. This includes intimately, no casual. Well, good for you. Stay out of those casual relationships. No guys ever talk to me in real life. Online has been a failure. How do I get a guy when no one wants a date? Well, so my question would be, why does nobody want a date, right? Like, it's not just nobody wants a date, right? Like, what's going on? Like, what are you saying? Like, there's a lot of things. Like, if somebody looks at your profile, right? So most places, at least in America, and in a lot of other countries, if you're a guy and you put up an online profile, basically nobody will ever message you ever, right? So you could leave it for weeks at a time and you'll go back to it. And unless you're a really handsome guy, you're not going to get messaged at all, right? If you're most women and you put up a profile and you put up a picture and you put up a generic profile about who you are, you will end up getting messages from men. And so men will be interested in you. And so if you're having failure after failure after failure, it's because there's something that is going on that you're missing. That's the problem. And you need to look at what that is, right? And figure out why that's happening. There's no way for me to tell you based on the information that you gave me, because you didn't give me enough information to look at it. I can't look at your online profile. I can't look at what you're doing in real life and how you're dressing and how you present yourself and how you feel about yourself. There's a lot of things missing here. And so there's no way for me to know. I was just watching this Dr. Phil episode where this woman was talking about how she keeps getting ghosted, right? And she's like, I've been ghosted 8 times by 8 men, and they all have girlfriends, and why do I keep meeting all these guys that have girlfriends? And then Dr. Phil like put up the messages that she was sending all these guys, and it was like she was like, it was like one conversation, then she's like, hey, are you sure you don't have a girlfriend? And he's like, no, I don't. And then like, a couple messages later, do you have a girlfriend now? And he's like, I already answered this question. And she's like, so do you or don't you? And what they found was that she was doing this with every guy, where she was like, hey, do you have a girlfriend? No. Are you sure you don't have a girlfriend? Why didn't you text me back? Are you seeing somebody else? And it was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on, right? So what was actually going on was that she was coming from a place of feeling like she wasn't good enough, which is probably what it was, right? Like these guys don't really like her that much, and so they're off dating other people. Because if she was sure in herself, she'd be like, hey, he might be seeing other people, he might not, doesn't matter, because once he starts getting around me, he's going to start realizing that I'm an amazing person, and fall in love with me and think I'm the most amazing woman that he's met in his life. And if he doesn't, then oh well, and he can go off in his life and do whatever he wants, and that's fine, right? And if she's coming from a place of feeling like she's not really worthy, not really deserving of the relationship that she wants, she's going to start questioning that and being like, are you seeing somebody else? Like, why are you seeing, why haven't you messaged me back, right? And so she's probably got some pain from her past, from emotional trauma from her childhood or something, where maybe she was seeing or dating a guy before, and he ended up breaking her heart, and he ended up with some other woman or something. Who knows what ended up happening? That kind of stuff happens all over the place these days on both sides, the men and women. And so she ended up linking that guys are probably off dating and seeing other people, and so she created this fantasy in her mind that if he's not immediately responding, he must have a girlfriend, and he must really be fake, and he's just pretending, or he's just chatting with me because he wants multiple girls or whatever, right? And in reality, and so she's like, hey, where are all the good men? Why don't guys like me? Why is every guy that I'm seeing, why do they all have girlfriends? And it's like, none of those things, the things that she's assuming about what's going on there, none of them are true. And they're just true for her in her mind, because she's creating these situations where she's constantly being super aggressive and then freaking out, right? And she has really low standards because she doesn't value herself. And as soon as a guy gives her any interest, she's all over him. But then she's constantly asking, hey, do you have his girlfriend? Are you seeing somebody else now? And so she's totally sabotaging her own ability to get into a relationship. And so I have no idea what your situation is, Ashley, but maybe that will help a little bit. There's something going on there that's off, and I have no idea what it is. You can only know what it is, or somebody that would look at what it is that you're doing, or somebody that you're interacting with would know what it was. So Sunny says, it's so not funny, it really hurts. Yeah, absolutely. Irene says, one guy tried to tell me I'd sleep with him, it would make him love me more, and he wouldn't be so afraid. Yeah, well, run away from that dude as quickly as you can, because you don't want to you don't want to deal with that. That just sounds incredibly manipulative. So Sherry says, my past is so sad. Well, a lot of us have sad pasts, right? I have a sad past. We all have most people have sad pasts. Most people are broken. And that's just normal. It's a part of life, right? And that's what allows us to become stronger and become bigger and better people, is that we go through pain and then we grow as a result of it. And if you're not growing as a result of it, you need to look at how you can grow as a result of it, so that you don't end up getting stuck in it. Sometimes we get women in our community who are just stuck in their own misery, and it doesn't help them. Right? You can either choose to create the life that you want to have, or you can choose to be a victim and reactive and just respond to the life that exists for you. And if you create the life that you want to have, then You are in control and you make decisions. Obviously, you can't control everything, but there's a lot of things that you can control. You can control how you feel. You can control what you say. You can control what you do. You can control the way that you perceive the world. You can control the way that you perceive your past. And if you look at your past and you go, man, my past is really sad, then that's going to create a certain type of experience that you have in your life. But if you look back at your past and you go, my past had a lot of challenges to it, but it taught me a lot. It taught me how to value myself. It taught me how to interact with people. It taught me how to communicate. It taught me to be a stronger and a better woman. Then you'll have a completely different experience of your life. And so my suggestion is that you switch your perspective on what's going on or what has gone on in your life, and you look at it as an opportunity to grow, and you look at it from a standpoint of all of this stuff that has happened to me or that I've experienced in my life has enabled me to become a stronger and a better woman who can go and create more of what I want in my life, and has taught me so many lessons so that maybe I can teach other people something, or so that maybe I can support other people, or maybe so that I can support myself in getting more of what I want. So Sarah says, so what do we do? What do you do about what? Join my Forever Woman program, the foreverwomanformula.com. That's what you should do. And follow the system that's in there, because it's a great system. It works. It works on human psychology and human biology, and it absolutely works. So, yes, use that. Go there, the foreverwomanformula.com. It's great. Grace says, best way to set boundaries about no early casual hookups, so hard to do when I'm attracted to someone. Yeah, so it depends on what it is that is happening, right? So usually most people come to me and they're like, okay, I want to set a boundary because something happened. So you can set a boundary. So if a guy makes a move on you, right, where it means, right, there's certain things that mean that he's trying to hook up with you, right? Like a guy books a hotel room and he wants you guys to stay at the hotel room, right? That means that he wants to hook up with you. A guy asks you to come to his house. Any and every time that a guy asks you to come to his house, just assume that he wants to hook up with you. A guy wants to go back to your place, just assume that he wants to hook up with you, right? Anytime that he wants to get you in a spot where you could hook up, just assume that he wants to hook up with you. And the way that you interact with him with that, right, is you set a boundary. And the boundary that you set, the way that you set a boundary is you first tell him what it is that you want, right? And hopefully what it is that you want is, something to do with him more, or if it's not, then what you need to do is say no, because there's kind of a hard rejection and a soft rejection. And a hard rejection is like, no, I don't want any, I'm done, I'm not interested, get away from me, right? And a soft rejection is like, I'm not quite ready for that yet. And so the way that a soft rejection boundary looks is you want to tell him what you want. So let's say that he invites you, let's say that he wants to do he contacts you at 12 o'clock at night and he's like, hey, why don't you come over to my place? And so basically he's asking you for a booty call. And so what you need to say is something like, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'd really love to do that sometime in the future. However, I for the time being, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better, so that I could feel more comfortable doing something like that sometime, down the road. I need more connection, and I need to feel like, we're going towards the type of relationship and situation I want. And, so how about we meet up sometime, this week during the day? So basically you're saying what you want, and then you're saying the boundary, and then you're asking him if, he can either agree to it or for some kind of alternative thing to what it is that he's asking about. So Patricia says, we had talks about it, had plans to meet, but didn't because of timing issues on my part. Okay. Jen says, you're awesome. I changed my system because of you. Well, I'm glad you changed your system because of me. Polly says, hey, Matthew, what do you think about Facebook friending a guy you think is cute but haven't formally met yet? We also go to the gym together. Well, I mean, it's one of those things like, do you go to the gym together, or do you guys go to the gym and you're both going to the same gym, right? Like, it's better to do things in, you can do it. You know, you can send him a Facebook friend request. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, when a guy gets a Facebook friend request from a girl, he knows immediately that she's interested, right? And if he doesn't know that, he assumes that. And he thinks in his mind, she wants to hook up, right? And she's super interested. That's what a guy thinks when you make that move. And so you can do that. Just remember that he's going to think that you're really interested in him. And so he's going to either like you and want to do something with you or not. My suggestion is, if you do that and you Facebook friend him, you just say, hi, you know, I just saw you and my friend, what are those things on the side? I don't even know what they are. It's like friend, possible friends or something like that. You know, I saw you in that, and I remember that I saw you at the gym one time, so I thought I'd friend you, and just leave it at that. And allow him, and then lean back and allow him to make any other moves if he wants to make any moves. And so you can do that, just don't have any expectations about what happens next. So one of the things, if you want to know about like approaching and all that kind of stuff with guys, most women that guys approach, things go nowhere, right? So the average guy, if he wants to get a girlfriend, he has to go out and approach at least 100 women in order to get one girlfriend, right? Because somewhere around 80 of the women will completely reject him. And somewhere around 20 of the women will, be open to something. And then, actually going on dates, maybe 10 of them will actually go on a date with him. And then out of those 10 that he goes on a date with, one of them will actually be something where you both get along and everything goes well and you end up in a relationship together, right? So for a guy, he has to approach 100 women in order for this to happen, on average, right? So as a woman, those numbers are dramatically better, right? Your numbers are dramatically better as a woman approaching a guy, right? Like, I think there was some study, I can't remember who did it, but they had guys go out and approach women and, ask them if they wanted to hook up, right? And, virtually no women said yes to this. I think out of 100, it was like 1 or something like that. And, they had a woman go out and do the same thing. And it was like, I think guy number 3 that said yes, and the others were like, oh, hey, I'd love to, but, I'm busy right now, or something like that. And so you have to remember that guys are more likely to be receptive to you than women are to a guy. But at the same time, you have to remember that it could go nowhere. And so I wouldn't get wrapped up in it happening because you sent him a friend request or whatever. And I wouldn't end up being, if I were you, I wouldn't be the masculine kind of force in this past the point of letting him know you're interested by sending him a friend request and letting him kind of pursue it and go after you if that's something that he's interested in, because it's just a far better situation that way. So Keza says, I have a question. Beginning is always easy to me. The worst part is after 2 or 3 months when I'm a bit involved, okay, maybe more, and he is taking things slowly. What would you advise? Because that's difficult. My advice is that you lean back. My advice is that you follow my system. My advice is that you use abundance of connection, abundance of options. You use the scarcity principle, that you create value for yourself. You use the polarity principle, and that you build passion and stuff in the relationship, and then you lean back and allow him to pursue you and invest in you and start doing things. And if he takes it slowly, that's fine, because you will have everything will be in your court, on your side of the court. I think the ball is in your court is the phrase. The ball will be in your court. So use the Forever Woman system. Go get it at theforeverwomanformula.com and lean back. That's my suggestion. So Amelia says, so if after 2 years and he only sees me once a week, it won't be more. Yes, I would be very concerned about it being more if it's been 2 years and he only wants to see you once a week, and I'd start questioning what's actually going on there. Because if it's been 2 years and you want to get married and he's not kind of pushing it towards that, and you guys are seeing each other once a week, I would be very concerned about that if I were you, and I would be questioning how interested he really is in this being something more with you. So Kat says, I would like to hear your opinion about transitional relationship, please. I don't know what that means. What do you mean by a transitional relationship? Han says, you are the best, Matthew. Thank you. I appreciate that. You are so right on in so many ways. Well, I am happy that you feel that way. So thank you for being here. You are awesome. So Andalyn says, people with a good heart are always unlucky in a relationship. That's not true. That is not true at all. It's not true at all. Get my system, Andalyn. Go to theforeverwomanformula.com. If you want to get lucky in relationship and in love, go get my system, and you will be amazed at how much more luck you end up getting. So in my experience, luck isn't something that just happens. Luck is something that is when preparation and chance meet each other, right? And so if you're not putting yourself in the right situations and setting yourself up to be lucky, then you're not going to be nearly as lucky as other people will. And so my suggestion is that you go get my program at theforeverwomanformula.com and you start changing your belief system, because believing that people with a good heart are always unlucky in a relationship will end up making you feel like you are always unlucky in a relationship. And so you need to change your beliefs, and I talk about that in the Forever Woman program, so you should go check that out. Dee Dee says, Matt, you look so handsome. Well, thank you very much, Dee Dee. I appreciate that. Leanne says, if a man is interested in a woman, in the first 2 dates, he will still test us and try to get physically intimate straight away to qualify a woman, or is that only intention from the beginning? Well, yeah, it's still, so a guy's going to try to push things forward. Most guys will try to push things forward as quickly as possible, because guys know that his best chance of getting whatever it is that he wants is by pushing things physical as quickly as humanly possible. That's just a fact. Just look at our community. If you join our community and you talk to some of the women in there and you look at some of the things that they're talking about, you will see that there's this huge group of women that decided that they wanted to get into casual friend with benefits situations. And what you will also notice is that most of them are completely emotionally tied up with this dude, right? Who they want to be boyfriend, girlfriend, they want to get married, they want all these things, right? Normally they wouldn't even have done it with this guy, but he was just so hot, and they were just like, you know what, I don't even care right now, and so they just like jumped into this thing, right? And then they find out that, and then they get attached to him, and he never wanted it from the beginning, and so they're like chasing him and trying to convince this dude to get into a real relationship with him. And so and sometimes it does work, right? And if he decides that it's going to work, it'll work usually, right? Unless she ends up having more power in the situation and all that kind of stuff, but that's another thing altogether. So yeah, a guy's going to try to push for that, and it can be a test, right? So it's not fair. I'm not going to say it's fair. But if you sleep with a guy straight away, it's far more likely that even if he thought of you as the woman that he wanted something real with, he might end up slotting you into the casual friend with benefits situationship. And so you do not want to sleep with dudes early on. It's possible that it can work out, but you don't want to bank on it. So, Benissa says, I'm not lucky in a relationship. Well, you can change all that around, Benissa. Whoa, you can change it around. Just go to theforeverwomanformula.com. Watch the video there. Join our community. Polly says, X is an X for a reason. Yeah, that's true. So, Laura says, Happy New Year. Love these live chats. Well, I'm glad you like them because I like them too. Leanne says, totally agree. The key is learning to be clear in our own needs and boundaries and not acting or reacting out of fear. I love it, Leanne. I love it. High five to that one. You are awesome. I love what you're talking about right now. We need to find our feminine strength. Find your feminine strength. I am on board with that. I will help you find your feminine strength. You know what? I'm proud of you, Leanne. I'm proud of you. What you're talking about right now, it really touches my heart. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community. Patricia says, I'm taking notes. Well, I'm glad you're taking notes. Some note-taking worthy things going on in this conversation. So Irene says, this is your year, ladies, by Matthew's program and be the beautiful fun-filled person you are meant to be and attract amazing man that wants an amazing relationship. Don't sell. That's what I'm talking about, Irene. You are on board, and I like that. You are a friend of mine, so thank you for being here. So Patty says, how many men should you date at once? Well, you should have a big orbit if you can, but you should only date up to 3 men at most. Because if it goes more than 3, what ends up happening is you're not really sure what's going on with who, and somebody told you a story and you forgot. Was it this guy that told you the story? I don't know who told me the story. And the next thing you know, you're like saying things that you've already said to a guy that you've already said them to, but you think it's the first time you told him it, and it just turns into a mess. You have no idea what's going on or who said what and who said who, and so you want 3 is the maximum that you should see, unless you're better at juggling guys, which I have doubts about. And so my suggestion is 3 at most. And if you want to have more people in the orbit, you can have more people in the orbit, and you just let the ones who want to step up and create the kind of relationship that you want to have step up and try to create that with you, and then you go, hoo, which one am I going to choose? Am I going to choose you? Am I going to choose you? And then you choose the one that you want to choose, and that's the magic. That's the magic of abundance. And if you want to know more about that, you should go to theforeverwomanformula.com and go watch the video and sign up for our program and the community. That is my suggestion. So Joanne says, hi Matt, I really like all your videos and I love the advice about relationship. It helps me a lot, especially in long distance relationship. Keep it up. Happy New Year. God bless. Well, thank you. I'm actually going to be coming out with a long distance relationship program here pretty soon. So I hope that you check it out and you end up liking it. It'll be pretty awesome. I'm pretty sure you're going to love it for sure because it's just so awesome. And you're going to be like, oh my God, this is everything that I need to know about a long distance relationship. And if you have any other questions about long distance relationships, let me know about them because I want to make this program the best program that you can possibly find anywhere about long distance relationships, which shouldn't be hard because there aren't very many programs out there about long distance relationships, and there definitely aren't very many good ones. So wait for that. So you want a man who you want to attract a man that loves you and sees you and cherishes you, and you want to get into a committed, lasting relationships. But we live in this world of the hookup culture, and men keep pulling away and disappearing, and guys just want to hook up and they just want something casual, and it feels like it's just too much, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? And it's like really difficult, and I can't get guys to approach me, and what's going on, and right. And so this ends up making you feel confused. It makes you start doubting yourself, starts making you doubting your own value and your own self-worth. And it might even make you feel like you just want to give up on men and dating and relationships altogether. And I totally get it. I've been there before. If you're having a hard time with men and dating, really it's not your fault. We live in a culture that encourages superficial relationships and discourages anything meaningful. But I believe that there's a better way for men and women to get into relationships and stay in relationships that last. And that's why I put together a proven path that will help you get into the relationship that you've always wanted to have. It's my program. It's called The Forever Woman. You can get it at theforeverwomanformula.com. Look, I understand what it's like to feel like keeping someone in my life is almost impossible. I know what it's like to try lots of different things, and none of them seem like they're working. I actually got into this industry originally as a client back in 2003, 2004, something like that, because I had so many problems with women and attracting a good woman. My high school sweetheart ended up cheating on me, and my brother, it's just a mess, right? It was just a mess. There was a lot of problems there, and so I got into this industry because I wanted to figure this stuff out, and I ended up working on myself. I became a men's dating coach, where I was coaching men how to do this, and then I ended up coming over to the women's side, and I really have enjoyed being on this side and helping so many women kind of move from this place of feeling like they were stuck, and it seems like dating is almost hopeless to them, and helping them get into a place where they not only feel better about it, but they actually attract a great man into a committed relationship where they're loved and cherished. And many of these women have ended up in marriage. And so I have a 3-part plan for you to be successful from all the stuff that I've learned over the years. Number 1 is to believe in your own value. You have to believe in your own value because of something I call the law of belief transference. Whoever believes something the most will transfer that belief to somebody else. So if a guy believes in your value but you don't, and you don't more than he believes in your value, which almost certainly you will end up pushing him away, and you will make him believe that you aren't very valuable because of the law of belief transference, because you will be pushing your belief onto him. Second is you need to position yourself in value, which is what I talk about with creating a power position, creating abundance, right? Creating polarity, all that kind of stuff. That's all about creating a position of value. And third is communicating your value in a very high, right? You want to come off as a high value woman, a woman that he sees and he's immediately like, man, this woman is so awesome and so cool. I'm so lucky to have her in my life. She's so important to me and so amazing. You're so important, so amazing to me. I never want to let you go. That's what you want to hear from a man. And so if you're interested in getting this program, make sure there's a link above or below this video, or you can go to theforeverwomanformula.com. Go watch the video on that page and sign up for my free course, the Forever Woman program. And if you end up using the program and use the principles in it, you'll end up attracting a man who loves you and cherishes you. You might even end up attracting a few of them. He'll end up wanting to pursue you for a committed, lasting relationship. You'll do less work and feel more appreciated and valued by men. And if you don't, you'll just stay stuck in whatever it is that you're doing. If you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same result. And so you want to change what it is that you're doing. You want to change. If you feel like you're always having unlucky situations coming your way, then you want to change your luck. And you want to set yourself up so that you become lucky, so that you experience luck, so that all the people around you start looking at you and they go, wow, you're so lucky. How are you so? It's amazing. You just seem so natural and easy for you to attract a great guy, and you're so amazing and lucky. Like, how did you get that way? And you'll have a secret. The secret is the Forever Woman formula. And so my suggestion is that you go to theforeverwomanformula.com and check out that program there. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. We have the most amazing, beautiful, attractive, awesome, intelligent, smart women in the world as a part of our community. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. And I wish you a happy new year. And I guess I'll see you again soon. So talk to you later. Thanks for being here, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.